Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive. Today we're headed to Busan, South Korea to explore the suyeong River.
The suyeong River.
Yeah, specifically the surprising return of salmon to this urban waterway.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We'll be looking at an audio report from way back in 2019 by a citizen reporter.
So like a local podcast from back then.
Exactly, and it's a fascinating story, challenging our ideas about cities and nature.
I can see that already.
Okay, so picture this, the suyeong River, over 28 kilometers long.
Whoa. Longer than I thought.
It starts in the mountains, winds through Busan, and eventually reaches the sea.
Wow. Quite a journey.
It has tributaries feeding into it, passes the Hedong Reservoir, and even forms an estuary zone as it nears the ocean.
Estuary zone. What's special about that?
It's where the fresh water from the river mixes with the salt water from the sea. Creates a really unique environment.
Ah, so a mix of fresh and salt water. Interesting.
Yeah, and it supports a whole variety of plants and animals, the whole ecosystem.
Makes sense.
But here's the real kicker. Since 2012, there have been sightings of salmon swimming upstream in the suyeong.
Salmon in an urban river. That's unexpected.
Right. You don't usually picture that. But it shows how resilient nature is.
And hopefully it means efforts to clean the river are working.
Exactly. Most people in Busan don't even know about these salmon.
Really?
Yeah. But there's this dedicated group, the Suyeong River Ecological Environment Network. They've been keeping track and working to protect the river.
Sounds like they're playing a crucial role in all this.
Absolutely. But before we get into what they're doing, I have a question for you. Why are salmon such a big deal? What's so special about them?
Well, salmon are what we call a first-class indicator species.
Meaning?
Their presence, or lack of it, tells us a lot about the health of an ecosystem.
Ah, okay.
They're super sensitive to changes in water quality, temperature, oxygen levels.
So if salmon are thriving, it means the water's pretty clean.
Exactly. Clean enough to support a whole web of life.
It's like a seal of approval for the river.
You can say that.
Huh.
And it's not just about the salmon themselves.
Right. There must be other species that benefit from a healthy salmon population. What are some examples?
Well, think about it. When salmon spawn, they die, right?
Yeah, that's a cycle.
Their carcasses provide nutrients for the riverbed, supporting insects, invertebrates, the whole food web.
Oh, I see. A natural fertilizer in a way?
Terry, and remember the estuary zone we talked about?
Yeah.
Salmon play a big role there too.
Okay, how so?
They connect the freshwater and marine environments, transporting nutrients and energy between them.
So they're like ecosystem engineers,
Yeah.
impacting everything from tiny insects to the estuary.
Precisely. Plus, salmon have a cultural significance, a symbol of hope and renewal.
I like that. A sign that nature can thrive even in cities.
Exactly. Now, speaking of renewal, did you know there's another river nearby, the Taihua River?
Tell me about it.
It was super polluted back in the 90s, like practically lifeless.
Yikes.
But through restoration efforts, it transformed into a pristine waterway. And guess what?
Salmon came back.
They did. It gives hope for what's possible for the suyeong.
That's inspiring. But what did they do to achieve that transformation?
It was a multi-pronged approach. Regulations on industrial discharge, wastewater treatment facilities, even relocating polluting industries.
So a mix of government action and probably community involvement.
Exactly. The community played a huge part, participating in cleanups, planting trees, becoming stewards of their river.
A true team effort.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Now, while the Taiwa is a great example, the suyeong does face its own set of challenges.
I bet. Bigger city, more people, more development. Really
Exactly. More pressure from urban runoff and a complex network of tributaries.
makes things trickier to manage.
But the Taiwa's success shows that even with challenges, things can change, with effort and community support.
And that's where the Suyeong River Ecological Environment Network comes in, right?
You got it.
They're not just waiting around for the salmon to magically reappear, are they?
No, they're very proactive. They conduct research on water quality and fish populations.
So gathering data to inform their efforts. Smart.
They also organize training programs on river management for locals and even government officials.
Empowering people with knowledge. I like it.
And wait, there's more. They have events like the Changpo Festival to raise awareness.
A festival. That's a fun way to get people involved.
Right. And they also focus on something called ecotherapy.
Ecotherapy. What is that?
It's about recognizing the link between human well-being and the environment.
Interesting.
They organize nature walks, mindfulness sessions by the river, even art therapy workshops.
So it's about taking care of the river and ourselves at the same time.
Exactly. Holistic approach. And it seems to be working. Our source introduces us to a woman named Kim Gum-sun, who lives near the Haedong Reservoir, which feeds into the Suyeong.
Okay, let's hear her perspective.
She talks about how much cleaner the river has become and how it's brought a sense of pride back to the community.
It's amazing how a river can have such a profound effect on people's lives.
Isn't it? And she urges everyone, visitors and locals alike, to be mindful, not to litter, to protect this precious resource.
A call to action, for sure. It reminds us we all have a part to play. Speaking of which, what does the network suggest people can do to help?
Education is key. They want people to learn about river ecosystems and the challenges they face.
Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. They also encourage simple actions like not littering, conserving water, choosing eco-friendly products.
Practical steps anyone can take.
And for those who want to do more, they suggest joining local environmental groups.
Great advice. They're really trying to foster a sense of responsibility for the river.
Yeah, creating a culture of stewardship. And it's a powerful story, one that goes beyond science and research.
A story of dedication, community engagement, and love for the environment.
Precisely. And we're just getting started. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore the network's research findings.
And we'll look at what you, our listeners, can learn from this inspiring story.
So it's not just anecdotal evidence, people saying, oh, the river looks cleaner.
Right, they've got actual research backing it up.
Exactly. They've been doing some in-depth studies. One looked at the genetics of the salmon.
Interesting. Why genetics?
They wanted to know if these were truly native Suyeong River salmon or just strays from other populations.
Ah, I see, to make sure it wasn't a fluke.
Exactly. And their research confirmed that these salmon are indeed descendants of the original Suyeong River salmon.
Wow. That's amazing. A real revival of the native population.
It also shows how important genetic diversity is.
And in what way?
A diverse gene pool makes a species more resilient, to changes in the environment or diseases.
Right, like having a backup plan.
Exactly. So it's not just about having salmon, it's about having a healthy and diverse population that can survive long term.
This is fascinating stuff. What other research have they done?
They've been monitoring water quality, too, at different points along the river.
To see if things are actually improving.
And their data shows a steady improvement in key indicators, like dissolved oxygen and nutrient levels.
That's good news. It seems like those efforts to clean up are paying off.
It does. But of course, it's not all perfect. There are still challenges.
Like what?
Well, they found that pollution levels are still high in some areas.
I imagine near industrial zones or heavily developed areas.
You guessed it. It's a reminder that this is an ongoing process. Constant vigilance is key.
It makes sense. Urban rivers are always under pressure. What other challenges are they facing?
They've noticed some changes in the river's flow patterns, too.
Flow patterns. How so?
Because of dams and weirs built upstream, they can disrupt the natural migration routes of salmon and other fish.
Oh, right. I didn't think about that.
It shows how human interventions, even if well-intentioned, can have unforeseen consequences.
We have to be mindful of the entire ecosystem.
Absolutely. But it's not all doom and gloom. The good news is they're using their research to adapt their strategies.
Okay, so they're not just gathering data, they're using it to make a difference.
Exactly. They're informing restoration efforts, advocating for policy changes. It's impactful science.
And citizen science, right?
Yes. They're proving you don't need a fancy degree to contribute to scientific knowledge and make a real impact.
That's inspiring. It shows that we can all be citizen scientists. Observe, question, explore our surroundings.
Who knows what we might discover?
Maybe we'll find our own salmon in the city story.
Exactly. But this deep dive is about more than just data and research.
It's about hope, resilience, that connection between humans and nature.
It reminds us that nature can thrive even in bustling cities, and that connecting with nature can be a powerful force for change.
Like we see with this network in Busan. They're inspiring people to take action, to become stewards of their environment.
Creating a healthier and more sustainable future. This story has really resonated with me.
Me too. It's made me think a lot about urban ecology and community action. But how does this relate to our listeners, the ones not living near the Suyeong River?
That's a great question. While the Suyeong is unique to Busan, there are universal lessons here.
So, what are some key takeaways for our listeners, no matter where they live?
First, awareness. Taking the time to understand the natural environment around us, even in urban areas.
We often take our surroundings for granted, especially in cities.
Right. But there's a whole ecosystem out there, even if it's hidden. Once we become aware of it, we can appreciate its value.
And understand how our actions impact it. So, opening our eyes to the nature around us, even if it's not a pristine forest.
Exactly. Another takeaway is that small actions can have a big impact.
The network started small, right?
A handful of passionate individuals, but their efforts have created a ripple effect throughout the community.
Can feel overwhelming to think about tackling environmental problems.
I know, but this shows us that individual actions, when multiplied, can make a difference,
Finding our own way to contribute, no matter how small.
and not waiting for someone else to lead. We can be the change makers. Another important point is collaboration.
Right. It wasn't just the network. It was a joint effort.
Scientists, government agencies, businesses, and the community all played a part. Complex challenges need multifaceted solutions.
And working together is key.
Pooling resources, sharing knowledge, supporting each other, we can achieve so much more that way.
Plus, it builds stronger communities.
Exactly. The Suyeong River has become a source of shared pride for the community.
A common goal that brings people together.
And that sense of purpose can be a powerful motivator. It inspires us to act, not just for ourselves, but for our community and the environment.
I think that's a great takeaway for our listeners.
The Suyeong River story is about human connection to nature, community engagement, and the potential of collective action.
And it's a story that continues to unfold. As the network continues their work, the salmon swim upstream, and more people learn about this inspiring tale. Who knows what other wonders await?
The Suyeong River story is a beacon of hope. Even with environmental challenges, there's always reason to be optimistic. It's a call to action, inviting us to connect with nature, become stewards of our local environments, and contribute to a healthier and more sustainable future for everyone.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, we ask you this. What will your story be? As we wrap up this deep dive into the Suyeong River, one thing keeps sticking with me.
Oh, what's that?
We've talked about the network, their research, all the great work they're doing, but it all started with someone just noticing the salmon.
That's right. A simple observation. Someone seeing something unexpected.
And that sparked this whole movement. It makes you think, what other amazing things are out there just waiting to be discovered?
Right. In our parks, our rivers, maybe even our own backyards.
What if we all paid a little more attention, looked at our surroundings with a sense of wonder?
Imagine what we might find. The arrival of migratory birds, the blooming of wildflowers, the intricate patterns in nature.
Those small observations can really spark a deeper appreciation for the world around us.
And maybe even lead to bigger discoveries, like the salmon in the Suyeong.
Exactly. We can all be citizen scientists, in a way.
Absolutely. Observe, ask questions, share what you find. You don't need a fancy degree to contribute.
And those contributions can inspire others to take action, get involved, protect their local environment.
It's a ripple effect, just like the salmon swimming upstream.
This whole story has been so inspiring. It's about so much more than just salmon or a river in South Korea.
It's about human curiosity, the power of community, and what can happen when people unite for a common purpose.
And it's a story that's still unfolding. Who knows what the future holds for the Suyeong and the people who care for it?
The Suyeong River is a beacon of hope, a reminder that even with environmental challenges, we can make a difference. It's a call to action for all of us.
To connect with nature, protect our environment, and work towards a healthier and more sustainable future.
So as we close out this deep dive, we leave you with this question. What will your story be?
What impact will you make on the world around you? Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. We'll see you next time for another deep dive.